Polished cutlery and the quiet hum of conversation. But at one particular table, a man sat alone, his eyes nervously darting to the entrance every few seconds. His name was Ethan Cole, a 36-year-old single father with kind brown eyes that carried years of exhaustion behind their warmth. His co-workers had convinced him to go on a blind date, telling him he needed to get out there again. What Ethan didn't know, what made his hands tremble slightly against his coffee cup, was that the entire thing was meant as a cruel joke. They had set him up with someone they had secretly mocked for months, a woman they had labeled the awkward one, the one they thought would make a scene. To them, it was funny. To Ethan, it was hope. Before we go deeper into this story of compassion, second chances, and unexpected kindness, take a moment. If you believe in humanity, empathy, and the power of second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. Your support helps us spread stories that remind the world kindness still exists. When Clara Jensen entered the restaurant, heads turned, not out of admiration, but out of mockery. She was 29, overweight, shy, and visibly nervous. Her floral dress didn't quite fit her properly, her curls framed her flushed face, and her eyes darted toward the floor as if trying to avoid judgment. She'd been told a man wanted to meet her, that he had seen her photo and thought she seemed sweet. She had doubted it, of course, but loneliness has a way of silencing reason. The moment Ethan saw her walk in, something inside him softened. She looked terrified, as though expecting rejection before she even sat down. When she hesitantly walked over and whispered his name, he stood up immediately, smiled, and pulled out her chair like a gentleman. The restaurant fell quiet for a moment. Some of Ethan's co-workers, sitting a few tables away, snickered quietly, waiting for the show to begin, but instead of mockery, they witnessed something they didn't expect. Ethan smiled, genuinely. He asked Clara if she was okay, if she'd had any trouble finding the place. He listened when she spoke, nodded when she shared her small stories about her job at the local library, and never once let his eyes wander anywhere but her face. Clara had never been treated that way before. Most people either looked through her or at her with pity. But Ethan made her feel seen, as if her words mattered. She kept stealing small, uncertain glances at him, trying to figure out if he was pretending. As their lunch went on, the laughter from the nearby table began to fade. Ethan was still unaware of the cruel setup, but his natural kindness had turned the prank into something unexpectedly beautiful. When he mentioned he was a single father raising a 7-year-old daughter named Mia, Clara's expression changed. She lit up, asking about her favorite books, toys, and bedtime stories. Ethan spoke with tenderness, his voice lowering as he shared that his wife had passed away 4 years ago in a car accident, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. He didn't talk about it often, grief had a way of closing him off, but with Clara, the words came out naturally. She didn't interrupt. She didn't offer empty sympathy. She just listened. By the time their plates were empty, Clara realized she hadn't laughed like this in years. Ethan noticed too, her laughter was warm, unguarded, almost musical. The kind that made people nearby smile without knowing why. Meanwhile, at the back of the restaurant, one of the co-workers who had orchestrated the prank whispered to the others that they should tell Ethan the truth before it got too weird. But as they prepared to walk over, Ethan stood up, excused himself politely, and asked Clara to wait a moment. He approached their table with calm eyes and an unreadable expression. He had seen their reflection in the window, their smirks, the whispered chuckles, the phones pointed discreetly in his direction. It hadn't taken him long to put the pieces together. I know what you're doing, Ethan said quietly, his voice steady but cold. You thought this would be funny. You thought humiliating someone would make your day brighter. But let me tell you something, you're wrong. You don't embarrass someone like Clara. You expose your own ugliness instead. The laughter died instantly. People from nearby tables looked over, sensing something serious unfolding. Ethan continued, his voice soft but cutting through the air like a blade. This woman came here despite knowing how cruel people can be. She came with hope. Do you know how much courage that takes? You think I'm the punchline? No. You are. Without waiting for an answer, he turned and walked back to Clara, smiling gently as if nothing had happened. He told her they should go somewhere else, somewhere quieter. She didn't know what had happened behind her, but she could tell something had changed in the air. They left the restaurant together, side by side, the sound of chairs shifting and murmurs fading behind them. Outside, the afternoon was bright, and the world felt bigger, warmer. Ethan suggested they go for a walk by the park nearby. Clara hesitated, her insecurities whispering that he was only being polite, but his calm presence made her feel safe enough to agree. As they walked beneath the gentle shade of the trees, Clara began to open up. She shared how, all her life, people had defined her by her size rather than her spirit. How she had been made fun of at school, ignored at work, and told she wasn't the type men would ever want to be seen with. Her voice trembled slightly when she admitted she hadn't been on a date in over 5 years. Ethan listened without pity. He told her about Mia's drawings, how his daughter often drew their family as 3 stick figures, her, him, and Mom in the clouds. He confessed he hadn't let anyone get close again because he didn't want Mia to be hurt, but as he spoke, he realized something. He wasn't just saying these things to comfort her. He meant them. He genuinely liked her. Clara had a warmth he hadn't felt from anyone in years. She asked questions that showed real care, not curiosity. And in her presence, he felt calm. Days turned into weeks. They met again, first for coffee, then for lunch, then for small picnics in the park. Ethan introduced Clara to Mia, and the little girl immediately adored her. Clara read stories to her in the evenings, helped with her homework, and baked cookies that filled the small apartment with the smell of cinnamon and love. Ethan's co-workers, the same ones who had tried to humiliate him, couldn't believe what they were seeing. They had made a cruel joke, but that joke had turned into something beautiful. One afternoon, when they saw Ethan drop Clara and Mia off at the park, laughing together under the bright daylight, one of them whispered, "I can't believe it worked out like this." Another just shook his head and said, "We were the ones who needed to change." But the most powerful moment came a few months later, at Mia's school event. Parents were invited to share a few words about kindness and courage. Ethan stood in front of a room full of families, with Clara sitting beside Mia in the front row. His voice was steady, emotional, full of sincerity. He said, "Sometimes life gives you moments that test your character. I learned that kindness isn't about what you say, it's about how you make someone feel when the world has been cruel to them. I was part of a cruel prank once, but what those people didn't know was that their joke gave me back something I thought I'd lost, a reason to believe in love again." As he spoke, Clara's eyes filled with tears. So did many others. The same people who once mocked her now looked at her with admiration, and when he finished, Ethan turned toward Clara and said the words that left everyone in the room silent and teary-eyed. He said, "They tried to make me laugh at you, but instead, I fell in love with you." That moment wasn't loud or dramatic, it was gentle, honest, and breathtakingly real. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still has power even in a world full of judgment, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. Your engagement helps us spread real stories of hope and compassion to millions who need them. Before we end, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell us, what does true kindness mean to you? As the daylight faded that evening, Ethan, Clara, and Mia walked home together, holding hands. The man who had been broken found peace in the most unexpected way, and the woman who had been mocked found someone who finally saw her heart, because sometimes, the cruelest jokes lead to the most beautiful truths.